Hey, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of Back to the Bronze Age. I am Count Chocula. This is the show where I look back, I reminisce, uh, end up reading some of my favorite Marvel Bronze Age comic books from back in the day. As always, it had to have been a comic book that I read then, or I bought off the spinner rack, or I traded for, or something like that. So today is for one, Merry Christmas. Today I'm going to do a Christmas themed issue. I follow a Bronze Age themed Twitter account, and they had posed a question, a Twitter poll the other day. What is your favorite one-off story from the Bronze Age? And they gave you four different options of issues, and this issue I'm covering today wasn't on there, but this is one of my all-time favorite one-off stories, and it just happens to be from December of 1980, and you'll see that it's got a little bit of a Christmas theme to it. You'll see right away with the cover. So let's get right into it here. And today we are talking about, of course, X-Men number 143. Merry Christmas, X-Men. Guess what just came down the chimney? And you see this really cool cover of X-Men character that you don't hear about too much anymore. Kitty Pryde. She was her first appearance was, I believe, X-Men 129, but she didn't officially she didn't officially become a member of the X-Men until about a year later. So I think it was late 78 when the character was introduced. It's like they were trying to bring in some younger readers a little bit, and the X-Men stumbled across this Jewish teenager from Chicago, and it was the first issue where it was starting of the Hellfire Club saga, and of course we know that leads up to the to one of the big events of the following year, which is the death of Jean Grey. So X-Men 129 is the first appearance of Kitty Pryde. I believe that they called her Sprite originally, and she's going to be the focus of this comic book. She's the main character in this comic book. And like I said, this is just a one-off issue. It's not a continuing storyline or anything like that. You see this now. You can see sometimes you have to hunt for the signature on the cover. It's pretty obvious on this one. It says Terry Austin, 1980. That's kind of weird because Terry Austin isn't known for. He's known to be the great inker and the finisher, but I'm not sure if he's done a lot of covers. I don't think I've ever seen another Terry Austin solo cover. So you can see in John Byrne's artwork, you can see the Terry Austin influence when he does the finishing for him, definitely. So John Byrne has famously said, you may not be a John Byrne fan, you may be a John Byrne Terry Austin fan. So that's a pretty cool little nod to the talent of Terry Austin. Terry Austin, of course, was the inker throughout the entire Claremont Byrne run of the X-Men. But I had heard in an interview, Terry Austin, they asked him about this cover specifically, and I guess they were having a little bit of a deadline issue, and Terry Austin was helping out, so he went ahead and did the cover. Because this is the first issue right after that epic Days of Future Past storyline. So I think maybe Chris and John had gotten a little behind, in their scheduling to get out the next issue. So Terry Austin said he was just trying to help out. So let's enough about the cover. It is an awesome cover. You see the Christmas tree in the background, and you see kind of the cross hatching there on the light, the light effect from the flashlight that Kitty Pryde is holding. Now, I believe I believe her first code name, X-Men code name, was Sprite, and then they ended up changing it to they changed it to, I think it might have been Ariel first, and then they changed it to Sprite, and then they eventually changed it to Shadow Cat down the line. So I don't think they ever was happy with the name. Maybe Chris Claremont always struggled with the name for that character, but they ended up referring to her as Kitty Pryde. Eventually. And as you can see, she's up there, up in the lineup on the logo there below the 50 cent mark. Yeah, comic books were 50 cents at this time. It says 1980 Marvel Comics Group, but that is March of 1981 is the publication or is the cover date, but this actually came out December of 1980. So let's just go ahead and get right into the comic book. As soon as I make it visible. All right. Once again, you think I've done this before. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Stan Lee presents the Uncanny X-Men. Her name is Storm, and although in her young life she has been hailed as a goddess, she is in truth a mutant, mistress of the wind and weather, and now a member of the Uncanny X-Men, a team of mutant superheroes. And it looks like she's being attacked by some demons. This autumn night in the sky above New York's Westchester County, she has come face to face with beings as foul as the pit that spawned them, members of an ancient race that once ruled the earth and who mean to rule it again. They are the Nagari, the elder gods of legend, the ultimate evil. One of their number has attacked the X-Men in the mansion that serves as the mutants' secret headquarters. Unless she destroys it utterly, the X-Men are doomed. Says, I skipped ahead there. I can't let these monsters hit me again. Never felt such agony. Below Storm is an ages-old cairn whose malefic power sustains the creature that threatens her name. I guess that's how that's pronounced. Unless she destroys it utterly, the X-Men are doomed. But what are these creatures? They aren't real. They're just things of smoke and light created by the cairn. How can I fight them? That bolt of energy, no time to avoid it. And it's coming from I call it an obelisk, but whatever. Let me make sure this is lined up here. My mind fuzzy, nothing fits together. I can't concentrate. Goddess, no, being pulled into the cairn, into the dark, and no matter how hard I try, I can't break loose, but I must. I must be free, and I shall. It is as if the sun had momentarily touched the earth, raw energy fueled in part by Storm's claustrophobic fear of being buried alive and part of a athasic terror born in subconscious racial memories of the Nagari explode around her, shattering the cairn. At the same instant, the thing spawned by the cairn simply ceases to exist. Shaken to her soul by her narrow escape, Storm's soul soars wearily home. For details, see X-Men 96, Louise. Now, Louise Jones is the editor of the X-Men book at this time. She would soon be Louise Simonson. She'd marry Walt Simonson. So this is all a flashback. As Professor Xavier, the X-Men's founder and mentor, telepathically assures her that the battle is over, the victory won. Months pass, and nature begins to heal the terrible wounds inflicted by that brief, fierce combat. The X-Men move on to new challenges, new foes. They know triumph and tragedy, and in time, their battle with the Nagari, one of the first of the new X-Men fought, is forgotten. Yeah, it was from X-Men 96, right after the issue that had the death of Thunderbird. That's when Dave Cockrum, Bill Mantlo was still co-writing the book. I think he co-wrote that issue with Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont had not yet officially taken over as the sole writer of X-Men yet when this originally happened. It's kind of Chris and John's expanding of a flashback. You don't actually see this happen just like this in X-Men 96. It's a little different. I remember that issue. Forgotten it may be by the X-Men, but it is far from over. Professor Xavier believed that destroying the Karn, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. The Karn would forever seal this gateway between the Nagari dimension and Earth. He was wrong. So there you see a demon. You see a lone soul demon there. That was too wide to fit on my monitor. I had to scroll over. Douglas, you are hopeless romantic. So sue me. Ellie, it's our first Christmas. We'll have years and years to get pre-chopped trees or plastic ones. I want this one to be special. I wasn't arguing, Doug, just stating a fact. How's this? Well, we live in an apartment, remember? Save the big one for our first house. I think it's sweet. I think you're sweet. I think very naughty thoughts. Oh, yeah? Like, what's that? Something in the trees. I'll take a look. Doug, be careful. Relax, Ellie. It's a false alarm, I think. You can see the demon grabs for the guy's throat. I'm glad the moon is full. Things are lit up so bright I don't need my flash. Urgh. For Douglas Moore, death is virtually instantaneous. His wife has time for a choked cry that is ended as quickly, as abruptly as her life. That's pretty brutal. Pretty brutal in a comic book. At that time especially. And when the killing is done, the Nagari feeds on both body and soul. These victims are but the first of many. Now we've got the intro splash page here where it says demon. I think the original Nagari story, Nagari issue 96 was called Night of the Demon. So it's kind of an ode back to that issue. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house the X-Men are stirring. It's been a quiet month since the battle in Washington, D.C. with the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. That's the Days of Future Past storyline. So it's been a month after that. And they spent the time catching their breath, honing old skills, learning new ones. No opportunity is wasted, which is why even on Christmas Eve, Kitty Pryde, the newest and youngest member of the team, must spend an hour under Professor Xavier's instruction. In addition to her schoolwork, learning all there is to know about the X-Men, their abilities, their equipment. Once more, Kitty, Blackbird ignition procedure from the beginning. Sigh, master switch on, brakes locked, throttles to last issue. And they were referring to, Luis was referring to last issue that they had the Days of Future Past, which were X-Men 141, 142. Professor, the car is ready. It's getting late. So we have Chris Claremont, John Byrne, writer, co-plotters, penciler, Terry Austin, inker, and of course, Louise Jones. Lynn Weem's wife is the colorist, and Louise Jones is the editor. And of course, the big man in charge is Jim Shooter. Hi, Angel. Talk about your timely interruptions. I feel I could build our Blackbird jet out of spare parts with my eyes closed. Kitty, I shan't be satisfied until you can. We all went through the grinder, kid. Now it's your turn. And this is the easy part. Thank you, Angel. I'm sure Kitty appreciates such encouragement. We'll be downstairs directly. Once again, I just want to reiterate how great Terry Austin's finishes of John Byrne's pencils are. I love it. I never get tired of it. Soon in the mansion foyer, Professor, I'd like to introduce my lady, Charles Xavier Mariko Yoshida. And then there's some Japanese there that I won't even try. Good evening, Professor. I am pleased to meet you. As am I, Miss Yoshida. Mariko, long time no see, and you look as beautiful as ever. Ah, Nightcrawler-san. And he's got mistletoe, and it pisses, and Nightcrawler kisses her on the cheek, and Wolverine loses it. Back off, Elf. What do you think you're doing? Mariko's my lady, as he teleports away. Retractable adamantium claws flash from the backs of Wolverine's hands, and only Nightcrawler's ability to teleport saves him from some nasty wounds. Instantly reacting with a speed that belies his massive form, Peter Rasputin shifts to the armored form of Colossus and let go of me, you tin-plated lummox. Wolverine, what do you think you're doing? Kurt is our friend. Wolverine, sheath your claws as Xavier is telepathically giving him commands. Kurt meant no harm, you know that. His was an innocent Christmas greeting, not some enemy's attack. As abruptly as Wolverine's sudden berserker rage begins, it ends. I'm obliged, Charlie. Your telepathic mind touch did the trick. I'm calm now. Everything's cool. Misfit Kurt, I'm sorry. I lost my head. I guess the old ways, the old habits die a lot harder than we figured. Mine are a killer's instincts. Always have been, always will be. I hope that could be changed. I was wrong. The mood here has gotten a wee bit heavy. I don't know if I should, but I'm going to try to lighten it up a little. Merry Christmas, sexy. Kitty. Peter, you're blushing. Good thing you only kissed him on the cheek, kitten. Anywhere else and he'd probably drop dead from shock. You know, Kurt, I'm beginning to regret rescuing you just now. Are you indeed? I've brought the automobile around, Professor. Thank you, Aurora. Yeah, they had kind of a start of a romance here with Colossus. And I mean, because Colossus isn't much older. Colossus is probably not much older than 20 years old. And she's 17, 18 around this time. I think she's 18. It's a lovely night, Aurora, you're doing. What good is being a mutant weather witch if one can't conjure up a crystal clear Christmas Eve? Way to go, Aurora. Have a nice time, you guys. See you later, kid. My lady Candy Southern and I have a long overdue date. You may not see me again till Easter. Enjoy yourself, Angel. Angel really isn't part of the X-Men. He hasn't been part of the X-Men all throughout the Claremont run when they did the new X-Men. He was one of him and Iceman actually were joined the champions on the West Coast in the Marvel Universe. Kind of like the version of the Los Angeles version of the Avengers. Finally, they're all gone. Oh my gosh, what am I saying? They're all gone. I'm all alone. Great. The kid here may have a genius IQ, but she's about as quick on the uptake as a clam. I've never spent Hanukkah away from home before. I wonder how mom and dad are doing. I know, I call them. It's funny. Sometimes I don't miss them at all. Sometimes I do. No answer. The phone. Mom, Dad. Oh, it's you. Sorry. Hi, Scott. This is Kitty Pryde. Do you remember? On the other end of the line, in the Florida seacoast town of Shark Bay, is Scott Summers, a Cyclops. He once led the X-Men until the death of the woman he loved, Jean Grey. After that, driven by needs he barely understood and a grief almost too terrible to endure, he took a leave of absence from the team. He's been on the road ever since. That's X-Men 138. Of course I remember you, Kitty. How are things? No one's home but you, I see. Well, give everyone my love. Wish them a Merry Christmas and tell them I'll try to phone again tomorrow. Bye, Kitty. Take care. Yeah, he kind of deserted the X-Men after the death of the Phoenix saga. Poor kid. Poor kid. She sounded really lonely. I know the feeling. I had too many Christmases like that growing up in the orphanage. Why'd the others leave her, though? That's not like the X-Men at all. Excuse me, I'm looking for Lee Forrester, captain of the Arcadia. I was told he was hiring crew. I'm Lee Forrester, a lettuce to my relatives, and you heard right. You're a girl? Care to try that again, sport? I'm sorry, I mean, apology accepted. Scott Summers. Come aboard, Scott. We'll split a pot of coffee and talk. Meanwhile, back in New York, enough with the mopes already. I'm a big girl now, and when big girls who also happen to be X-Men feel as miserable as I do, they don't act sorry for themselves and get all weepy waily. They hit something, primitive but oh so cathartic. Since no one's around to monitor me in the danger room, I can't run a combat workout. Says danger room primary cycle gymnasium, time cycle 60 minutes. But I don't really mind. She concentrates, trying to be serious, but unable to repress a giggle of excitement as she phases through the floor of the control booth, literally falling through the vast empty space between atoms of her body, sliding between those of the metal, and floats down to the floor of the danger room. She hasn't been an X-Man for very long, but she's not used to her nascent superpowers, and using them still gives her a thrill. Awaiting her is enough equipment to stock a top-rated spa. After a series of warm-up exercises, Kitty goes to work. Once upon a time, 2, 3, 4, I thought the life of superheroes was all fun and games. Ha! No one told me I'd be spending hours a day plus studying, plus schoolwork studying, or another hour every day exercising. And this isn't just for me either. All the X-Men work out. I don't see the point. It's our superpowers that need training, not our bodies. I'm in great shape. The way things are going, I'll probably turn into a teenage female Arnold Schwarzenegger. Alley-oop. Ow, better ease off a little. Something went twinge in my thigh. I shouldn't joke so much about the X-Men. This isn't a game to them. They hide their feelings around me, but whenever they mention Jean Grey, they sound so sad. She died as an X-Men. I could die. I wish I'd known her better. Then there's an alarm that goes off. That's a burglar alarm. The house computer should be printing out on the detail on the wall scan screen. Ah, there it is. Possible intruder, zone 4. Zone 4 is upstairs, Aurora's attic. There's an intruder. When I'm by myself, I'm supposed to call the police, but I think I better check things out first. And so one of the X-Men are supposed to call the police. Yeah, okay. I called them last September during a big windstorm, and it turned out to be a false alarm. A tree branch had blown through the skylight. The cops took it in stride, but I felt like a jerk. This time I'm going to make sure. Running up air molecules is a lot more fun than walking upstairs. Even if I do find a burglar, there's nothing to worry about. With my phasing power, there's no way I can be harmed. Gee, it's gotten awful cold all of a sudden. And no wonder. My costume's insulated, and I can still feel the cold. Icicle City. Oh no, Aurora's flowers. They're all dead, poor thing. Poor things. But this isn't right. Granted, this attic was like a hothouse, and the winter air outside will kill the plants. But not so quickly, so completely. Yuck. What the heck is this? The floor's covered with this goop. That sound. Someone's in here, but who? And this is a really cool. Not who, Kitty. What? She's like, no. And the whole page, half of the page is this demon that has broken in through the skylight. Pretty awesome panel there by Byrne and Terry Austin. Kind of looks familiar, though, huh? I'll talk about that later. The demon lunges, eager to claim this new succulent prey. Yow, but Kitty is too fast for it. She phases through the floor, hoping it will shield her from her unhuman pursuer. She hopes in vain as the demon just rips the wall into shreds. Cripes, that thing is as strong as it is ugly, and its claws are as razor sharp as Wolverine's. It's obvious what it's after. Me. I don't want to think about why, but where did it come from? What the blazes is it? What's it doing here? It's determined, I'll give it that. The mansion's walls are specially reinforced, and they don't even slow it down. She runs. But wherever she goes, the demon follows, hot on her heels. This is a cool panel here. Byrne did this quite a bit. He'd have like the side cut view of like rooms. He did that in one of the Marvel team up books where Spider-Man tried to grab Thor's hammer in midair and he went crashing. The Mjolnir dragged Spider-Man through a bunch of walls. I can't keep this up forever. That thing will trash the entire house. I can't run for help either. It could get away, or worse, wait for the police to show up and then tear them apart. Fighting it won't be easy, though. Physically, I'm hopelessly outmatched. But I have a brain. Perhaps I can outwit it. I need to learn how smart that thing is. I've pulled a little bit ahead of it. I'll duck down the stairway, and then, while I'm momentarily out of sight, phase through the stairs into the storage closet underneath. My scent will simply disappear in midair. Even Wolverine's super sensitive nose would have a hard time picking me out of all the other odors in here. The monster will have to deduce what I've done. The question is, can it do that? I can't hear anything. My ploy worked. Next, I'll phase through the floor into the closet below, the one that's next to the phone. If this was a movie, the monster would be waiting right outside the door, ready to bite my head off the moment I show myself. Isn't that a cheery thought? Well, here goes nothing. I don't believe I'm taking this so much in stride. I'm scared, yet I'm coping. I'm out, and so far I'm safe. All I need are a few seconds grace to call the professor on the Rolls car phone, and I figure I'm home free. X-Men to the rescue. Bye-bye, beastie. Oh, no, as the demon crashes through the wall. The demon times its attack perfectly, smashing through the door behind her. Before Sprite, yeah, they call her Sprite. I think it either started as Sprite and they changed it to Ariel. I think it started as Ariel, they changed it to Sprite, and then eventually Shadowcat, like I said before. The demon times its attack perfectly, smashing through the door behind her. Before Sprite can move, much less escape. Its claws rip through her. She screams, but does not die. I felt that. I managed to phase the instant before it hit me, but its attack still hurt. Ha! I've never felt such agony. My right arm's numb, frozen, useless. Somehow that creature can reach me, hurt me, even in my inferior state. That changes everything. My guts feel like they've been twisted inside out. I feel sick physically and psychically. It's an effort just to stay on my feet. I can't let it touch me again. It's smart, too. It's anticipated my move and turned the tables on me. I daren't underestimate it a second time. I can't call for help. I can't run. I've no alternative. I have to fight it and beat it on my own. I'll stand. I'll make my stand here in the danger room. My trail will lead it inside. Once more, using her phasing ability to literally walk on individual molecules of air, Kitty ascends from the floor to the control booth. I'll program the most dangerous sequences possible. Blast. I'm not used to doing this one-handed. This is harder than I thought. It's taking so long, too long. The system has built its safety interlocks to prevent anyone from being seriously injured. But if I hit the monster often enough, with everything the room has, I think I can knock it silly. At the very least, this should keep it occupied long enough for me to contact the professor. There, it's all set. The only thing missing is my monster. That sucker's sure taking its time. Oh, suppose it suspects a trap. That's ridiculous. No, there's no reason why it should. Last I saw it, I was crippled and on the run. I'm wondering why Professor Xavier can't sense, like, telepathically. Of course, you wouldn't have a story then. Telepathically sense her danger. Unless it isn't merely smart, it's real smart. I think I just got my answer. Kitty dives backwards, phasing through the face of the booth. The demon charges after her, shattering the armored, supposedly unbreakable glass with terrifying ease, leaving shattered, savage computers short, circuiting in its wake. As Kitty lands, she feels the room come to life around her. The demon closes in for the kill, believing it has her cornered. This is really cool. This is really cool. These are normally whenever the angel used to do the danger room. The danger room would shoot this weaponry, these steel rods at him. And then as the Nagari's turn to yowl in surprise and pain as the trap so carefully laid by Kitty is sprung. Nailed the creep. Although staggered by the multiple assaults, the demon is far from beaten. It's ripping up the floor. Bad move, Ugly. Reacting that way is sure to throw the danger room systems out of control and cancel the safety interlocks. Oh, what a cool panel this is, with all the detail on the machinery and the circuitry, like, of the floor. Unfortunately, when the devices in here run wild, they can not only kill you, they can kill me as well. Fa- My phasing ability will protect me from mechanical threats. I'll simply slip right through them. I'll be less able to handle gas or sonic attacks or the hallucinogenic light shows. And at the same time, I've got to stay away from the creature. I didn't expect it to be here with it when the room activated. I thought I'd be watching from the safety of the booth. But perhaps I can turn that to my advantage. The monster seems prepared to endure anything to get me. I can lead it to the worst of the assault systems. They shouldn't affect me, but they ought to cause my monster a whole lot of problems, fatal ones, I hope. Yeah, in the previous two issues of Days of Future Past, she goes into the danger room for the first time and just simply walks through it. And nothing touched her, and they were not. The Charles Xavier was not happy. Kind of defeats the purpose of the danger room. A force field wall. It's a random energy pattern. It'll take concentration to phase through it, and that kind of time I simply do not have. Doesn't this walking horror ever slow up? I'm pushing myself as hard as I can, and I'm barely staying ahead of it. The monster's getting mad, and I'm getting tired. I only need a couple minutes to get my second win, but I doubt I'm going to get him. My initial adrenaline high is starting to wear off. I'm slowing down. Now I understand about those darn exercises. To survive the kind of foes the X-Men fight, you have to be better than the best. Superpowers alone aren't always enough to do the trick. They have to be coupled with a strong, well-honed body and mind. I don't believe it. The monsters wrecked the danger room, but was it hurt in the process? I don't know. It's so hard to tell. The monster's screaming, but is that pain or rage or something completely different? It's still after me as eagerly as ever. I can't slacken my pace, not yet. No matter how much I want to, I've come too far, fought too hard to give up now or lose. I've made my last mistake too. I can't afford another. I've no more margin for error. If I foul up again, if I guess wrong, I'm dead. Dead. Not the sort of thing your typical healthy 13-year-old is supposed to think about. Okay, she's 13. I was thinking she was like 17, but she's 13. So, yeah, that makes the Colossus thing a little creepy. That makes the Colossus relationship, but they don't really have a relationship. It goes on and on for years in the comic books, and then finally, they kind of are off again, on again. That's scary, but what's more scary is the thought that if that thing kills me, there'll be no one to warn the X-Men of the monster's existence. It'll catch them off guard. When they return home, they'll be slaughtered. I don't know if Wolverine will be slaughtered. In the danger room, it almost caught me, but fire forced it away. Is it vulnerable to intense heat? Too bad I don't have some king-size flamethrowers handy. They used them to fight the monster in that movie. It didn't work, though. I wonder what movie they're talking about there. They used them to fight the monster in that movie. Hmm. But I remember what did. Oh boy, it just works. It works as well for me. I know what movie they're referring to, but in this it's pretty obvious. I'll talk about it at the end of the issue. The underground hangar complex is a mile from the mansion, connected by a high-speed subway. The monocar can make it in less than a minute. Though it doesn't seem like much, a minute can sometimes be a very long time. Kitty hasn't even gone halfway before the demon derails her monocar. She finishes the journey on foot, 900 meters in 3 minutes. 1 meter equals 3.3 feet. From Louis Jones, the editor. 900 meters in 3 minutes, ignoring the white hot poker stabbing through her chest with every gasping breath and the blinding shards of pain from her left knee that reduces her to a hobble by the time she reaches the hangar. There, it's in the launch bay on the elevator that lifts it to the surface for takeoff. Sits the X-Men's modified SR-71 Blackbird. I was getting ahead of myself. Probably the most powerful aircraft on Earth. It is capable of circling the globe without refueling or soaring to the edge of space, of flying at hypersonic speeds over 5 times the speed of sound. If the monster wants me, it'll have to come down the transit tunnel. There's no other entrance to the hangar complex from the mansion. The hangar is constructed of steel and concrete, a couple of meters thick. Even that creature would have a hard time digging its way in here. I'm counting on it being too angry to try. Man, Chris Claremont wrote a novel on this one. Or wanting me so badly that it'll follow the path of least resistance, certain that I can do nothing to destroy it. Suppose it's right. I don't see it yet in the tail camera. Now to run through the ignition checklist. Please, Lord, don't let me forget anything. It must have taken John Byrne a long time. I know John Byrne is a fast artist, but the amount of detail he's putting into like the console and the cockpit of the Blackbird and all the danger room and the sub levels of the X mansion. That's got to take some time. Master switch on, internal brakes on, brakes locked, fuel pumps on. What's next? I don't know. Think. It's coming. What do I do? Stop it. Relax. Deep breath. Calm. Stay calm. Don't rush. Take your time. Everything will be all right. Wait. The Blackbird's on a turntable. I can follow the monster anywhere inside the launch bay, but I have to wait till the last possible instant, till it's right on top of me. That's the spirit, you slimy horror. You slimy horror, you. Come to Kitty. Just a little closer, sucker. A couple more lousy steps. Got you. As she hits the ignition switch. 2 engines, each rated at 20,000 kilograms of thrust, flare to life at the touch of a button. They're at full emergency power, afterburners punching twin pillars of flame from the huge exhausts. From behind the Blackbird, it's like suddenly finding oneself transported to the gates of hell or plunged into the heart of a star. A howling basso roar fills the hangar. As awesome in its own way as the engines fire, the engines were never meant to be fired underground, and especially not at maximum thrust. They create blast waves that shake the complex like a small earthquake. Metal, stressed beyond endurance, bends, shrieks, telltales in the cockpit flash urgent warnings. Kitty ignores them until finally, with an almost human scream, the landing gear buckles and the Blackbird hurls itself forward through the launch bay into the far wall. Then and only then, as she feels the undercarriage collapse, does Kitty shut down the engines, flooding them with foam to prevent a fire. The silence is deafening. I'm sorry, Blackbird. I wish I could have thought of another way. Cough, cough. I must have KO'd the air cyclers. The hangar is so thick with smoke I can hardly see. The automatic sprinklers have a malfunction too. I'll have to activate them manually. I'd better walk on air. Things are still burning, and the floor's so hot I can feel it through the soles of my insulated boots. Where's the monster? Did I kill it? I had to. Nothing could have survived this holocaust. Nothing. As a demon claw reaches out of the flames to her face, she has time to scream. It's midnight before Professor Xavier's Rolls Royce returns to the mansion. Icy roads and airport traffic jams caused expected delays. An unexpected obstacle was a police roadblock in Salem Center. There has been a series of gruesome murders nearby earlier this evening. The last uncomfortably close to Xavier's school. Of course, they're talking about the demon slaughtering people. The police were alerting all the local residents as well as checking all strangers passing through town. No lights, Professor. That could mean nothing. It is late. Kitty could have gone to bed. Perhaps, Peter, but there is a miasma of evil about the house that inhibits my telepathic abilities. Check inside. Aurora, stay here to protect the car. Maybe that explains why he couldn't sense Kitty Pryde's predicament. This is strange. It's significantly colder inside the house than outside. I swear I've sensed this particular evil before, but for the life of me, I can't remember when. It's infuriating. All seems peaceful, Professor. Wait, I hear the television. Someone must be in the living room. Kitty. Yawn. Oh, hi, Peter. She's sitting by the fireplace. Peter. Oh, wow. Oh, thanks. Oh, thank heavens it's you. What do you hear what happened tonight? You have no idea how happy I am to see you. Kitty, please. If you're happy to see Peter, kitten, then how you feel about us? Mom, Dad, you grew a beard. Maybe that's why they didn't answer the phone. I'm so glad you both could make your trip, Carmen. Your presence has done wonders for Kitty's morale. Charles, to be honest, you couldn't have kept us away. I didn't realize we'd miss our kitten so much. Our visit, that's a typo, or visit your special Hanukkah surprise. It is much a gift to us as to her. Kitty, I've been upstairs in my attic. Uh-oh. What precisely happened while we were gone? I was attacked by a big, ugly monster. A monster? Aurora, you had to see it to believe it. We fought. I got lucky. I won. But in the process, we kind of wrecked the danger room. Wreck the danger room? And the blackbird and the hangar and a lot of the house? Oh, my. Are you angry? I'm not quite sure, but from the sounds of things, I'm fairly certain I should feel terribly proud of you. Gee. It had been the closest of close calls. She was too tired and too scared to phase through the phase when the demon reached for her. It could have killed her had it got her hands on her. But it was dying on its feet, its unearthly form crumbling into dust with every step. It tried. It made a supreme effort. It failed. Alone on Christmas Eve, Kitty Pryde underwent a rite of passage, a supreme test of her abilities, her intellect, her courage, herself. She passed. And you see the ashes of a demon claw, like the silhouette ashes here of a demon claw on the ground. So it fried right before it could grab her. Next, the return of Cyclops. So now I want to look at the X-Mail page. Louise Jones, editor, Danny Fingeroth, assistant editor. And so that was X-Men 143. And as you can tell, it was a kind of a ode to the Alien movie. And John Byrne had said in an interview that both he and Chris had liked the movie, which the original Alien came out in 1979, a year and a few months before this issue. They wrote this issue together, and they had planned to do a kind of a ode to that movie. But John Byrne said while he was drawing the book, he didn't think that people would put two and two together and get the reference. So that's why he put the movie reference. That's why he and Chris put the movie reference, because both of them didn't think that it would be apparent that this was their nod to Alien. But John Byrne had also said that they were worried about getting sued because the premise of the story is, and the way that the xenomorph is killed by Ripley in the original Alien is so, and they did all that on purpose, of course, similar to, how they did the way Kitty Pryde, dispatched the demon in this. And they even made the demon, now the Nagari demons predate the Alien movie. It was in the original X-Men. I said that earlier. I think it was 1978. Might have been even 1977. It was probably it's like 1976. um, that the X-Men 96 came out, I believe. Yeah, early 1976. As a matter of fact, X-Men number 96. That would have been, yeah, that's 4 years prior to this. So yeah, we're talking not 1978, 1976. So it predates the Alien movie by a number of years. So that wasn't the issue. Now they changed. John Byrne changed the design of the Nagari demon to look more like the xenomorph. That's apparent because if you look at the original Nagari demon, they're all a variety of looks. They don't all look like that, but they have that similar colorization, and it's a little similar, but you can tell that he stretched it a little to look like the xenomorph, like in between the xenomorph and the original Nagari. But John Byrne had said in an interview, he was worried about the lawsuit. They expected the lawsuit from whatever studio did the original Alien movie. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he said, "Oh, the lawsuit never came." A couple things on this. You can see Kurt Busiek, who would write in all the time. He became a one of the writers for the Marvel Ultimate line, and he became a Marvel writer in the '90s, and he did some of the Marvel Ultimate. He would be featured in a lot of the mail. He would write in all the time to all the different Marvel comics, and this isn't the first time that he had been in the feature. One of his letters has been featured in the mail page. Whenever I bought a comic book back in the day, even when I was young, like 10 years old, 10 years old, I would go and read the fan mail. I would read the fan mail before I read the issue. I would always flip through the pages, find the fan mail, because I wanted to know, like, you could always get some like inside information of what was going on with the creators, and you get some insight in some of the stories. Of course, the stories that what they're talking about here happened issues ago. They're talking about X-Men 138 here, so that was 5 issues prior. You're not talking about emails anymore or social media. This is 1980, where you had to wait for responses in publications for months. But I wanted to read this little announcement here that they had, and I remember reading this as a kid. I remember vividly the day after I bought this issue off the spinner rack, and I brought it home and I read this, and I was like devastated. This really was like a gut punch when I read this as a kid. I remember vividly reacting, going, "You got to be kidding me." I was mad. We open with an announcement. This is Chris Claremont speaking. We open with an announcement, one that in many ways I wish I didn't have to write. As many of you no doubt know, this has been widely reported in the various comics news magazines. John Byrne has resigned as penciler on the X-Men. I was like, what? Because I hadn't heard that. I hadn't heard about that. This is his last issue. It is also Terry Austin's last issue as inker on the book. In all my years as writer, I had never worked with as good a creative team as a pair of people as John and Terry. Together, they reached Olympian levels of artistic quality and consistency. They will be missed. This is kind of like the comic book equivalency of the Beatles breaking up, basically. So John Byrne had resigned. Now there was a number of reasons why John Byrne resigned from the X-Men. One being that it was no secret that John Byrne wanted his own book. I've talked about this before many times. John Byrne wanted to be the writer and artist of his own book, and I believe they had talked about putting him on the Fantastic Four. And of course, we all know that he goes from this a short while after this. He doesn't immediately go, but just I think months later he would take over the Fantastic Four, and he would be the writer and the and the penciler on that book. Uh, Terry Austin leaving was a huge blow to the book. Um, so to continue this little announcement, that's the sad news. Now for the good stuff. After next issue's superlative interim art job by Brent Anderson, one of the finest young pencilers working in comics today, the penciling reins will be returned to the man who co-created the new X-Men in the first place, Dave Cockrum. His initial issue is already finished, and believe me, it's a knockout. Nothing lasts forever, and any change, no matter how beneficial it may turn out to be, is wrenching. Dave's departure 3 years ago closed the first chapter in the history of the new X-Men. John and Terry's departure closes the second. I wish them well, and I really look forward to what the next 3 years will bring. Your response to this book has been really phenomenal. I and Dave intend to keep it that way. Now, it's also well known that another reason why John Byrne left the X-Men is he was starting to have creative differences with Chris Claremont. Now, they were friends, but they were starting to butt heads creatively. And John Byrne disagreed with some of Jim Shooter's decisions. John Byrne was against the killing off of Jean Grey. He thought that there was a much better way to handle that would lead to great stories, on down the road. Of course, they ended up resurrecting and doing all this. I would have rather them not kill the character and went on. I think John Byrne's way of handling it sounds to me more intriguing, where the X-Men spend the next, there's a lot of issues on the horizon of the X-Men. Instead of her being killed, she gets imprisoned by the Imperial Guard in like a galactic prison, and they try to bust her out. To me, that's a little bit more interesting. But of course, it was like the big event of the time of Jean Grey dying. It was one of the best-selling books in Marvel history, and they were getting death threats and all that stuff. Jim Shooter has said this. It was like phenomenal sales. X-Men by this time was already the number one selling. It went from one of the lower selling books to one of the number one book at Marvel. Of course, Daredevil would come in and supplant it just for a few months. The Frank Miller Daredevil run. The following year, but in 1981, I believe. So that was, I remember this day. I was at my buddy's house. We had just bought some new comic books off the spinner rack, and we went back to read it, and I turned to this and I read this. So I read this and I remember being pissed off, and he was like, "What?" We were like, what the heck is going on? Why is John Byrne leaving? So, and I did, I was like, resigned. What does that mean? Resigned? He's not going to be on the book anymore? Or, was he fired or what? But no, John Byrne had voluntarily resigned as penciler on the X-Men. He has, it's no, he has let it be known in past interviews. There were little bits and pieces ongoing over those years that they just butted heads. They had creative differences on the book. So it is what it is. But John Byrne would never come back to pencil X-Men again. So it made it kind of issue number 143. Even it's a cool movie. It's a cool story. I had seen the Alien movie when I was 10 years old in 1979. I had seen the Alien movie, so I knew right away. I was like, "Wait a second, that looks like the Xenomorph," So I knew right away what they were doing. But John and Chris had said they didn't think the majority of the audience, majority of the readers would get it. But I guess by the fan mail and all that stuff and the response to the issue, everyone loved it. And they had said, we're expecting a lawsuit, but the lawsuit never came. So anyway, that is my recollection and my rehashing of X-Men 143. Merry Christmas, X-Men. And, and it's a standalone story, and it's one of my all-time favorite standalone stories. And when I saw that poll on that Twitter, that Bronze Age comic book Twitter account about what is your favorite one-off story from the Bronze Age of comic books, this instantly came in my mind, but it wasn't one of their options on the poll. So on the poll that they were taking. So but this one just popped into my head, and it was just a couple days ago, and it's ironic that this is Christmas, so I thought I'd cover it on Christmas Day. So anyway, that does it for this episode of Back to the Bronze Age. I hope you enjoyed the issue. It had been a couple years since I had read this, so I really enjoyed revisiting that. I had forgotten just how lengthy, how wordy that issue was, but it's really cool to revisit those issues that I love from when I was a kid. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, I will see you later. Next episode, I'm gonna continue on with my Lynn Wein George Perez Fantastic Four issues. So I will see you later.